to go first, and if you could try to limit your comments to a couple of minutes, and we'll give you a warning when you're getting pretty close to the end.
And to stop.
This is Bill Lippert from Bath County.
Okay.
Am I good to go?
You're good to go.
Okay. I really haven't prepared any comments, but I'd like to say a few words. First of all, I appreciate you meeting again, and I'm especially appreciative of the pipeline subcommittee and your contributions to Union Hill and Yogaville. I'm sorry that Lynn and I couldn't make it down to Richmond today. We're fighting our own fight out here in Bath County, but I'm trying to stay abreast of your work. I'm pleased that the NAACP of Virginia has gotten involved. I might suggest that you try to get the Virginia ACLUs involved in your struggle as well. I've tried them twice since I've been fighting the Atlantic Coast Pipeline, and they haven't been able to get involved, but you never know. Maybe they could. I'm also sorry that my wife and I haven't to get down to Buckingham County and to Unionville and to Yogaville. We're going to try to do as soon as we can. Was particularly aggrieved to read some statements that Dominion made regarding Union Hill. They sincerely believe that the project is going to improve the quality of life for all Virginians and residents of Union Hill. I don't see sincerely in anything that I've heard from Dominion in the past 2.5 years regarding the Atlantic Coast Pipeline. I see them saying we value the contributions of the residents of Union Hill. I don't believe they are. I see them saying profound respect for the residents of Union Hill. I don't see that either. I also see them saying that nearby residents will not be able to see or hear the facility. I can't understand that whatsoever. And I think that's probably as much hot air as the compressor station is going to be putting out. So that's about all I had prepared for now, but we're with you in spirit, and we're continue this fight, and I think we got winning, and let's keep working at it.
Thank you.
Again.
Thank you very much. Why don't we go to one of the people in the room?
Yeah.
And if whoever is speaking in the room could come to the table so that the folks on the microphone can hear you, that would be
Suzanne.
helpful.
Yeah, sorry.
I want to echo what Mr. Limpert just said. I read an article this morning that claimed that the Atlantic Coast Pipeline would improve the quality of life for all Virginia residents, providing us clean fuel, more energy, and more jobs. And we all know that this kind of propaganda from Dominion really belittles the impact of this pipeline, not only in Union Hill, but along the whole length of the pipeline, on people's lives. The air permit was made public today for the compressor station. It will release tons, as you all have heard before, of toxics, pollutants, air pollutants. We all know that air pollution kills. It causes profound morbidity and mortality, and that the people who live within a mile of the compressor station, and the last I heard it was 499 people, their bodies will bear the burden of a pipeline and a gas infrastructure that will actually benefit no one in the Commonwealth of Virginia, except for shareholders of Dominion. And I just want to say one other thing, which I forgot, or two things. I forgot to say thank you all. Thank you to you all for holding this meeting. Thank you for going through this very tough process and coming to consensus. It looks like you're close to submitting something to the governor. I really appreciate it. I think it's really important. And I do think that moving the Commonwealth to look at environmental justice issues in every single thing that it does is vitally important, because right now we know that the agencies did not, DEQ did nothing. And then the last thing I want to say is, it is just vitally important that we change the politics of Virginia and change the process where a company that has a plantation mentality towards the people of Virginia is not allowed to dictate our policy, and that they have their head in the 19th century on energy and on how you treat people. We cannot tolerate this anymore in the Commonwealth of Virginia. Citizens need to be protected, and our government needs to work for us. Thank you.
And I live in Nelson County, and I work with the Buckingham community around the compressor station and pipeline issue. And one of the things that I think is important for you to know, and maybe you already do, but there is a Commonwealth energy policy and the Virginia Administrative Code that states that developing energy resources and facilities in a manner that does not impose a disproportionate adverse impact on economically disadvantaged or minority communities now exists in Virginia Administrative Code Section 67101 and 67102. And it says, to achieve the objectives enumerated in Section 67101, it shall be the policy of the Commonwealth to ensure the development of new or expansion of existing energy resources or facilities does not have a disproportionate adverse impact on economically disadvantaged or minority communities, which says to me that our state is required to acknowledge and recognize in new or existing energy infrastructure expansion or construction environmental issues. And Breaux has filed a complaint with the EPA because the DEQ did nothing about an environmental justice analysis around the compressor station or the pipelines in Virginia. And it is a dereliction of duty, in my opinion. And they have said publicly they're not required to do anything. And our administrative code does require them to do something. And I sincerely appreciate all efforts that you all are making on behalf of the communities that are directly affected by the pipeline and the compressor station. And I just wanted to make sure that you knew that that administrative code language is there. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Stay on track. I want to thank everybody again for all of your hard work on this, especially that core group who really dug down deep and found all of those great footnotes, and we're very pleased with all of your hard work. I represent the RVA Interfaith Climate Justice League, and I also am a volunteer pipelines legislative committee person for the Sierra Club, but I'm wearing the RVA Interfaith Climate Justice League hat today. The Council may not be going anywhere, but its ability to make recommendations that affect the lives of Virginians impacted by fracked gas pipelines is time-bound. Time is of the essence, and the Governor needs the Council's recommendations. The oil and gas industry dumps 9 million tons of methane and toxic pollutants like benzene into our air each year. Methane is a greenhouse gas 87 times more potent than carbon, you all know this, and is driving climate change, and the oil and gas industry is now the largest source of methane pollution in the United States. The life-threatening burdens Dominion is proposing to place on Union Hill residents are the result of unchecked systemic oppression perpetuated by the fossil fuel industry, which exposes communities to health, economic, and social hazards. The nature of the vulnerability of the African American and other person of color fence-line communities is intersectional, subject to connected systems of discrimination based on social categorizations such as race, gender, and class. The racial disparities among communities impacted by environmental pollution in the United States are stark. African Americans are exposed to 38% more polluted air than Caucasians, and they are 75% more likely to live in those fence-line communities than the average Americans. There was a 2016 Gasping for Breath report, and they found that ozone smog from natural gas industry pollution is associated with increased asthma attacks and asthma-related emergency room visits and hospital admissions. And I ask you, how far away is the nearest emergency room to the residents of Union Hill? We are concerned about climate change and Virginia's continued dependence on fossil fuels. We have asked elected officials for years for policies to promote more clean and renewable sources of energy to conserve and to protect our environment, while also creating safe, new economic opportunities for solar and wind workers and entrepreneurs within our Commonwealth. To create jobs, Virginia needs to expand net metering, third-party ownership, and eliminate unnecessary barriers to customer-owned solar and modernize our grid around clean, renewable energy technology. Unfortunately, Virginia is investing in one of the largest and dirtiest energy infrastructure projects, which will continue the destructive paths of generating and consuming more fossil fuel, while doing little to create good-paying, permanent jobs that will last beyond the construction and lack of economic justification for the domestic use of fracked gas products. Just because these fossil fuel companies bring short-term jobs to an area doesn't mean it can do it at the expense of those communities' health and well-being. The cost of natural gas power is tethered to the commodity price of natural gas, which is inherently volatile. The price of controllable, storable, renewable energy is tethered only to technology costs, which are going down. Recent forecasts suggest that it will be cheaper to build new renewable storage than to continue operating existing natural gas plants. Natural gas infrastructure built today will be rendered uncompetitive well before the end of their rated lifespan. Is it worth the cost and burden to this community of Union Hill for such a short-sighted and limited project? In a letter to the State Water Control Board in May, the Virginia NAACP decried the environmental racism already mentioned, so I will close by thanking you for your consideration.
My turn?
Yep, go ahead, 3 minutes. You got 3 minutes, go ahead. One more time, honey.
Pardon?
Your name again,
Hello?
please?
Yes, I am Swami Dayananda from Yogaville community. We have been working with Union Hill community on air, water, and environmental justice issues for 4 years. And I just want to say at the beginning that this situation is where our communities, the law does not protect our health and safety. FERC and Dominion ignored Union Hill's EJ issues until you came. And as you know, that they will be disproportionately having the burden of the pollution, and which also means that they have been disproportionately ignored, and Yogaville's issue as well. And that I am just to tell you the value of ACEJ, because after you came to Buckingham, the attention by public and media and even politicians have noticeably increased. We had DOJ persons come last week, and faith leaders came to talk with Union Hill, and media attention, and Dominion re-engaged by hiring someone to be a liaison, which has its own advantage and disadvantage. So I am very glad that you have decided to include the task force clause there. It is so very needed. I just want to say that if there is no follow-up, it would be like you would abandon your mission to bring attention with effort to change so that environmental justice issues will not be happening in other communities as well as ours. And Union Hill is an example. This is a place I believe you and the impacted communities can make a difference. Perhaps it could be one of the first ones of your mission, because you have just begun, that we can make a difference. And that is my hope. And please note that in your duties of the council, it says that it shall provide advice and recommendations for integrating environmental justice considerations throughout the Commonwealth, and improving the environment and public health in communities disproportionately burdened, and ensuring transparent, authentic, and equitable engagement in decision-making, building capacity in disproportionately burdened communities. So
strengthening partnership in environmental justice among governmental agencies, including federal, state, tribal, and local governments. So I believe you did the right thing to include the question. And so I want to end by truly expressing our gratitude. We need you, and please continue to engage with us, with the impacted community. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Comments are sort of twofold. First, to say thank you all for the hard work that you all have already put forth with regards to the work regarding the pipeline. It's very important. I think that you all as an advisory council have a really great opportunity to leverage your own expertise internally and to really push the envelope beyond what you all have with regards to the issues that are at hand. The creation of a task force, as I've been sitting here in the background listening, I think is an important piece, and I think that you all should look beyond just the pipeline in the creation of this task force, such that if it is created, that not only does it work on pipeline, but it also works on other environmental justice issues, and that you just don't lock this particular task force into that one particular issue regarding the pipeline if we're going to be creating another bureaucratic body outside of the subcommittee individuals that may already be at the table. My second comment deals more with the functioning of this body, and I want to have it placed on record to make sure that you all understand that when it was put together, the purpose and focus was to ultimately have the regulatory teeth necessary to ensure that the things, issues and concerns of community has a body that is not a council but a board. And I want to put back on the table that focus of your convening should also be about the next step moving forward, and to ensure that at the end goal, when we put the council together, that you all end up with the regulatory teeth that you need as a board and not as an advisory council, and that needs to be put back on the table in the conversations to ensure the legal teeth that an EJ statewide advisory council would ultimately need. When we were working to put this organization together, that was the key component, and I've heard that sort of fall off the back table again, and it gets back at the heart of transparency, authentic engagement, and being true to those that we serve, which are ultimately those communities that are most impacted and carry the burden of the decisions that are being made both at the state and local levels. And so I wanted to bring that back up again, and to ultimately strongly suggest that as you all are moving forward beyond what originally brought us together, of course, was the ED11, EO57, but what we also knew was that we had a very short time window to get this advisory council up and running, and so that's what we did. We got it up and running, and we don't want you all to stop short of the end goal, and the end goal is the ultimate legal teeth and authority to move forward and have true policy power as it relates to how the state, and not only DEQ, but all of the state agencies that are under our guys operates, and that they ultimately address Executive Order 12898, what that means for federal agencies and state agencies that are receiving federal funds, and what that means with regards to environmental justice. So again, I want to say thank you for your hard work, and know that you all have just started, and that if you think that this is going to be just another board that doesn't do any work, yes, it is volunteer time, but there's a lot of work that needs to be done, and that in order for it to come to fruition, not only are you all as individuals going to have to roll up your sleeves, but we're going to have to have true support from the state agency beyond what has been shown thus far, and having to have some real backing, because the next question is, where does the funding come? After the next meeting, what happens? And as my mentor told me, just because the money is not there, does that mean that the work stops? So if the money does not come, what does this mean for the council?
Shabazz. For my comment, I'm just coming into the advisory council world and seeing the work that is being done. I'm very appreciative of it. Coming from Newport News, Virginia, and being affected by poor air quality, it is extremely important that this work gets done and that we are extremely transparent with the things that we are doing. And I appreciate Angela for her comment saying that, we want to make sure that we're not going into communities and extorting, those communities, and make sure that we are allowing those communities to speak for themselves because they live there, right? So they know what is truly going on. Having a son that is disabled from their asthma, I can tell you how these egregious acts go into life. I think a lot of times organizations only surface level information when really it's a holistic situation when you're dealing with these type of egregious behaviors and policies. It causes diminishing mental health when you have to worry about what's going to happen to your child or if you're going to have a place to live tomorrow, eminent domain and things like this. It really has a bearing on one's soul, and I would like to, amplify that message so that it stays on people's minds that this is just not about a surface fight about pipelines or clean air. This is about liberty and us being able to pursue that, which was guaranteed for this country. And so that's all I have to say.
Thank you.
All right,
My name is Felix Sarpa-Kutonka. I'm with Dominion Energy. And first, I want to thank you for your hard work and thank you for the opportunity to provide public comments. We do have respect for the history and the people of Buckingham County and the Union Hill community. We've worked very hard over the last several years to build strong relationships with the leaders and the residents of the community. We value their perspective, and we've made sincere efforts to address their concerns. In 2016, we formed a community advisory group to develop our plans for the compressor station. Several Union Hill residents participated in the process. Based on their valuable input, we made several changes to the facility with the goal of minimizing its impact on the community. More recently, as recent actually as this past Tuesday, and for the last couple weeks, we've met again and again with residents of the Union Hill community. And we will continue to meet with the residents to address their concerns. We disagree with many of the recommendations. Natural gas infrastructure plays a vital role in Virginia's economy and daily lives of millions of Virginians, including residents of the Union Hill community in Buckingham County. It is also critical to our companies and our region's transition from coal to cleaner energy sources. We believe this project is going to help improve the overall quality of life in Buckingham County, and it's going to generate more than $1 million a year in new local property tax revenue that can be used for meaningful and improvements to public schools, libraries, police, fire departments, and other vital local services. The Atlantic Coast Pipeline has been one of the more comprehensively reviewed energy projects in our region's history. In nearly every aspect of the project, we have gone above and beyond regulatory requirements that are designed to protect the environment and public health. The limits in the draft Buckingham air permit issued for public comment yesterday are 4 to 10 times more stringent than the limits in other recently issued compressor station permits in Virginia. We have offered to speak numerous times to the advisory council about this project, and we are still open to having that conversation. We urge the council to fully consider all perspectives before submitting recommendations. Thank you.
The public comments. My name is Gustavo Angeles. I'm the Environmental Justice Program Coordinator for the Virginia chapter of the Sierra Club. The Sierra Club is America's largest grassroots environmental organization with over 100,000 supporters and 20,000 members in Virginia. In addition, the Sierra Club works to promote clean energy, safeguard the health of our communities, protect wildlife, and preserve our remaining wild places. The club requests that the Council letter regarding the current proposed frac gas pipeline projects and their associated infrastructure, including the Buckingham County compressor station, be released without a delay. We appreciate that the Council sees the necessity of doing more completely stream-by-stream assessments to evaluate the potential impact of both the Atlantic coast and mountain valley pipelines on disproportionate vulnerable communities, and urges the Council to recommend a moratorium on new gas infrastructure in order that the full impact might be taken into consideration prior to further development. It is necessary. Currently, less impactful forms of energy generation, like solar and wind, are less expensive than fossil fuels infrastructures and can instead provide economic opportunities to impacted communities, not environmental impacts like dirt, air, and water. It is the responsibility of the Commonwealth of Virginia to protect those who live in the path and adjacent to the pipeline route. Damage to natural resources will continue to disproportionately affect lower income communities and communities of color. If this Council recommended, it is in the power of the Governor to put a moratorium on the pipelines until these studies are conducted. It does not need to be called a moratorium, but the Governor can definitely ask the authorities to directly DEQ to resign the 401 certification of the fracked gas pipelines until sufficient analysis is conducted. As noted by one of your Council members, and it can be truthfully unequally said that Virginia's health will be protected. Releasing your Council's letter with these requested points will show that the Council is proactive in protecting Virginians first and looking out against environmental hazards to their well-being. This is a good first step, but the Council work is not done. It is necessary to be vigilant and make sure that the Governor and other state agencies follow the recommendations expressed in this letter. Otherwise, the recommendation serves as a guard dog missing his teeth. All bark, no bite. We also request the Council to continue holding meetings in the communities that are affected by these projects at times convenient for the local communities. These will allow them to be able to express their opinions. Transparency and inclusion should give this process. Virginia must always put first the opinions and input of people that will be directly affected by these or other matters. In areas of transparency, we request the Council to offer at least 2 weeks' notice for the meetings, as well as publishing the agenda. Also, please continue holding public meetings and deliberations so people will be informed of their decisions making progress. We ask the Council to be present at the upcoming meetings for the State Water Control Board on August 21st in Richmond, as well as the September 11th meeting for the State Air Pollution Control Board meeting in Buckingham County. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
This is Chad. Can I make a comment now?
Yes, you may.
3 minutes, thanks.
3 minutes, okay. I have to say that I'm actually speaking in response to some of the things that the Dominion representative said. For one thing, the community advisory group that they did give us a chance to participate in. Initially, there wasn't anybody from Union Hill in that, and I, in fact, brought that up and went to several members in the community, and later they did join that group. So initially, there wasn't anybody from Union Hill,
And when we went to this group to participate, we made it very clear that we felt we really didn't want a compressor station in our neighborhood. None of that was ever addressed. Never, ever, ever addressed. It was always their agenda to push forward the idea that yes, there was going to be one, no matter what. We got to talk, although we asked many questions, we did ask many questions about the pollutions and so forth and so on. We really only got to participate in deciding the color of the building, of the compressor station itself, maybe, the trees that would be planted, these sorts of things. They never really addressed the safety issues. One of the people who came from Yogaville wanted to ship a film about it, how these things are, and they do explode, and do we really have the capacity in Buckingham to take care of that with volunteer fire and rescue? They basically closed the meeting before that could be shown. He did go ahead and show it, but very few people really got to view it. So I can't say that was really engaging the community in the process. And then it's just been lately that they have reached out to us, only because the advisory council had taken an interest in us, because we're at risk out here. We are at great risk out here for our health will be affected. Environmental regulations are just that. They're regulations. They do not protect our air, our water, our health. And they allow ACP, they would allow ACP to pollute up to very high levels that do impact human in all life, and especially those most vulnerable, the elderly and the children. That's been mentioned earlier. And we do know there are mostly elderly and children in this community. Of the 99 families that we contacted in a door-to-door demographic study, mostly elderly with already existing health conditions that would be worsened by the emissions that would be emitted by this very large compressor station. So I just want to say thank you for recognizing us as an environmental justice community. And I am an impacted resident. I live in the community. Do not dissolve into another governmental agency that just does the required things on the paper and looks good. Continue to listen to our voices and to act on our behalf. This is the only time that this has happened. I echo so loudly what Swami Dayananda said. Please do not forget us. Please keep this going. I so appreciate it on behalf of the Union Hill community.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So basically, my name is Harrison Wallace. I'm with the Chesapeake Climate Action Network. We are a 3-state network that has 20,000 supporters in Virginia, and we're focusing on promoting clean energy around the Commonwealth. And I think the main thing that I wanted to reiterate from what has been said from a lot of my colleagues is, one, thank you for all your work. We've had the pleasure of working with a lot of you. I know you're in the right place, and thank you, Miriam and Trieste, for helping facilitate these meetings. I think right now it's just that time is of the essence, so from CCAN and from the environmental community, we really urge you to try to get your letter out. I think the task force is important, but more importantly, just showing a way of getting our state agencies to include EJ into what their plans are. And if that's through a task force that can get them to that planning and hold them accountable, then that's great. If it can be through an annual review and to where they can actually have some written guidelines on how to do that, then I think that's perfect too. But in general, we need to make sure that's part of their planning process. And that your letter also gets out hopefully before the State Water Control Board meeting on August 21st, and definitely before the Air Board meeting in September. We need the governor to see this, and also the members of those boards to show that the council that's supposed to be advising him on these things has put their voice out on these pipelines. I know this fight is getting near the end, and this is one of the last opportunities we have to show Governor Northam and the state what they are capable of doing through the Clean Water Act and the Clean Air Act. So I encourage you to get this stuff out as fast as you can, and to trust in the original letter that you had, and really push that, give it some teeth, and push the government to do the right thing. So thank you.
Thank you. A minute?
Yeah, I'd just like to say this is a moral imperative. You know, we have been treated as the least of these. We have been disrespected and not listened to at hearings by Board of Supervisors, by clerk, by the governor, by Dominion. I was part of the so-called community advisory group that Chad Ova talked about. We have been so disrespected and made into a sacrifice zone. Please help us to not let that happen here.
Thank you.